Hey everybody, Kirk Simpson here with Atlanta Carnivorous Gardens. We are here in early spring and the flowers are blooming all over the Sarracenia. So I thought it'd be a really good time to walk you guys through pollination, why it matters, why we do it, what we're looking to get out of it, and our process. We're going to go ahead and dive in. I've tried to do this video in the past, but it's a little tough too because I need both my hands free to show you. So I've got a tripod set up, so hopefully these angles work out where you can see everything really clearly. But if you have any questions, always feel free to ask. So before we get started going into the mechanics of pollination, let's just start with why we do it. Sarracenia are generally best when they are crossed. So if you want to grow plants from seeds, it's best if you can take two separate plants and pollinate them with each other. And that way you can create unique plants and you can breed for what you're looking for, whether that be colors or shape or whatever you like about a plant. If you can cross it with another plant, generally you'll create more vigorous offspring, and you can really mix and match different plants together and create some really unique offspring with your seeds. So when we get into spring and the flower buds start popping up, the first step we always want to do is look for buds that are coming up. And if there's a plant that's special to you that you know you're going to want to breed with and you see a flower bud on it, you want to go ahead and put one of these organza bags on it. This is for crafts or wedding gift bags, that kind of thing. And what this does is prevent the pollinators that are outside pollinating flowers from getting in and pollinating your flowers on their own, where you won't know exactly what the pollen plant is. Of course, you'll know the mother plant because the flower is attached to it, but the father plant that gives the pollen, you won't really know because the pollinators are just random. That's what they do. So if you go ahead, you'll want to put one of these bags on when it's in the bud stage like this. Once a flower is open like this, it's no good to put a bag on it because it's already been exposed and could have potentially been pollinated. So you won't really truly get a named cross if you don't get your bags on early when it's in the bud stage like this. If you wait until it's open like this, that's no good. So a couple of supplies that I like to use when I'm pollinating, I'll walk you through. One, how we transfer the pollen. I use a simple paintbrush. You can use Q-tips, you can use a paintbrush, anything that you can kind of coat in pollen and take to another flower to pollinate it. It works really well. So these paintbrushes, I use them because they're cheap and you're going to need a lot of them. You're going to need a new one for every different pollen plant that you want to use it on. So it's not really practical to use anything expensive or anything that you have to wash off every time. So I just get a big set of these kids paintbrushes and I use these and they work great. Like I said, you can also use Q-tips or really anything along that vein that can kind of get covered in pollen and then use it to transfer onto another flower. The second thing, once you pollinate a flower, you will want some kind of tagging system. That way, when you go back to harvest the seeds in the fall, you know what it's been pollinated with. And what I like to use are these embossing tags. These, I really can't recommend them enough. They're really weatherproof. They're made of metal. They can be outside all year long until September or October when you're harvesting your seeds, and stand up to that just well. And I'll show you how they work once we go into the pollinating, but being that it's embossing, I don't have to worry about the writing fading because if I just push really hard, I get an imprint of what I'm writing on here. So I don't have to come back later and wonder what was written on that when the Sharpie fades, or if you use a paper tag, if it gets torn up, whatever happens. These are also metal, so when you fix them to a flower, they stay put, they don't go anywhere. And when I come back in the fall, I can just snip the entire flower stalk, and I'll have my tag there and I'll know what mother plant it was attached to, so I'll know my cross. Okay, so now let's say you know what cross you want to do and you're ready to get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get your pollen. That's what you're going to need to pollinate the other flower. So what I have here, I've got a plant here, I call it cowboy hat because it's got a really big lid. You got a nice open flower. This is when the pollen will be ready. This is what you're going to want to look for. To make things easy with the video, I'm going to go ahead and strip these away. These are the petals. So these come up in spring and they tend to drop after a week or two. But just to make the view nice and easy for y'all, I'm going to go ahead and strip those. And you can already see, I don't know if you can make it out in the video, but some pollen kind of falling to the side. And you know what? I'm going to strip it even further. I'm going to take off a lot of this just so you guys get a really clear, clean view. So don't worry about my butchering this flower. I'm not actually pollinating it. I won't be saving the seed. This is more for demonstration purposes. And so I want to go ahead and make sure that you guys get a really clean view. So once you strip those away, what you'll see down here is the structure of the flower. And if you look really closely, you'll see these are the actual pollen sacs, and they drop the pollen onto this little upside down umbrella down here where it collects. Makes it really easy to use a paintbrush and collect everything. And then if I strip off some of this pollen, that part right there, that nice green mound right there, that's going to eventually be your seed pod. So that's where your seeds will be ready around September or October, usually in the fall. So hopefully you get a nice clean view with that. And if I point it back down again, hopefully you can see these are pollen grains down here, and they'll come in little, like, kind of looking like miniature rice grains almost. But if you hit them with a paintbrush, you'll notice they turn into just powder, which is really useful. And so that's the actual pollen that you're going to want to be saving. So this is cowboy hat. It's going to be my father or my pollen plant. And you can see I've got a good amount here on my paintbrush. So now I'm going to move that to the side so that you can see the mother plants getting pollinated. So I'm going to be careful with that. I should have done this in 2 takes so that I could be more careful. Now this flower is not actually open. Again, this is for demonstration purposes. So this actually will not work. What you're going to want to wait for when you pollinate is for the petals to be open and the flower to be a little bit further along. At this stage, I don't think this would be very receptive to pollen. But this is one of my flava. It's Bill Hoyer by Botanique. This is a really interesting one. It's got this kind of unique pattern on it for a flava. And now that I think of it, actually, I'm going to use a different flower so you guys can see a little bit better, one that's further open. I don't want to sacrifice this one just for demonstration, so I'm going to go ahead and find one in the greenhouse. Okay, so now I found a purpurea, so this should be really easy. Nice short plant, make things easy for y'all to see. This one's almost a little too far along. When it starts to tilt upright like this, it kind of means the flower's a little bit older. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. So again, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take all the petals off so y'all can see the structure of the flower in here. What you're looking for is called the stigma. And so if I take the petals off and these top leaves, when you look at that little umbrella shape that we talked about, there's these little nubs, and I'm trying to get it in focus. Hopefully you guys can kind of see. Let me go ahead and I'll take some of these top leaves off so y'all can see as clearly as possible, because I want this to register, because this is the part that confuses a lot of people, but it's really not confusing once you've done it a few times. So trying to keep it in perspective, you can see on these little pointed parts, there's a little nub on the other side. You see that kind of where my ring finger is right there. Let me see, you can kind of see that one. But yeah, so on the other side of this structure, there are these little nubs, and you're just going to take your paintbrush and go around, and I try and use it like a fish hook. You want to get it on the surface of that. Again, that's called the stigma. That's where the pollen is received. And you'll try and go all the way around the flower and just make sure that you're getting a good layer of pollen all over that. Okay. Another thing to keep in mind is that it's always helpful to try and do this 2 or 3 times. So you want to kind of come back tomorrow and try and do it again. That way you just ensure that you get a really good pollination set, and that you're not going to have any trouble with seed setting in the fall. When you go back to collect it, it'll be successfully pollinated and ripe, and you'll have a nice seed pod that's all swollen up and you can see everything. So once I do that, again, it's important to remember always to tag. So let me see if I can adjust. All right, take 2. My camera kind of capsized on the tripod there. But again, this is that embossable tag. You can find these on Amazon. That's where I get a box of them. And we'll just take our pen. We will make sure we push it in there to make an indentation. And our pollen plant is called Cowboy Hat right there. So you can see my bad handwriting there. But then you just take your stem here with your mother flower that's received the pollen, and all you're going to do is just give it a couple twists. Don't twist too tight because you don't want to snap the stem. And then bend these little pointy guys to the side so nobody takes one in the finger. And you can see, there we go.